Hello student, welcome to EPG Pathshala on Biophysics. I am Professor Dhananjay Bhattacharya of Saha Institute of Nuclear Physics. Presently I am the head of Computational Science Division, but before this I was a professor of biophysics for 15 years. Now in this course on quantum biophysics, you are learning how to develop quantum mechanics, how it was developed by Schrödinger and others, Hartree-Fock, and then Kohn-Sham and several others. And initially it was developed first for hydrogen atoms, and then it was applied for larger and larger molecules. Initially it was the Hartree-Fock method, and then it was density functional theory, and all these methods calculate potential energy of the molecule considering the electrons and the nucleus, all these systems. Now in biophysics, we are going to be trying to understand the system of larger molecules such as protein, nucleic acid, or protein lipid complex, and all those things. Now in these cases we have less number of in the earlier cases we have less number of atoms, so we could consider the electrons and the nucleus together. But in these cases, in the case of proteins, we have to restrict ourselves to further approximate methods where we will be discussing only about the positions of the nucleus and forget about the electrons. We in effect take care of the electrons by considering the partial charges of all these atoms because by the electronic motion, and then we obtain the electron density from quantum mechanics for all the atoms, and then we got the partial charges, and these partial charges they interact with each other, giving to maximum contribution to the total potential energy. Now a potential energy of a molecule, whether it is a small molecule or a large molecule like protein or multi-protein complex, these can be calculated, but this calculation is done for a single conformation. A single conformation can be obtained from experiment or some analogy of structure of some similar molecules, but this molecule will again change. These molecules or the conformation initially chosen may not be the ultimate conformation in the solution or in the cell. So we would like to know what is the conformation of the protein which will be stable in solution or in the cellular system to do the actual function. So for that reason we have to find out the best conformation in the cellular environment. Now what is the best conformation in cellular environment? Now since we have the potential energy and we know that the best conformation of potential energy will be at the zero, and that zero conformation or the energy which is the minimum, one needs to find out. And how to find out the minimum energy conformation? There are several methods, and we are going to learn slowly what are the methods, what are their merits and what are their demerits, how to use them, how these methods were developed, and so on. So in this lecture we will be discussing mostly on the application of quantum mechanics for finding out the best possible conformation of a protein or of a small molecule by different mathematical methods. So objective of this model is that in our earlier lectures we calculated the way of potential energy. We described how to calculate potential energy. Then we described how to calculate potential energy by considering the solvation, that is water or any other biologically relevant molecules, lots of them together in the surrounding the protein. But then our main intention is to model a structure and model a complex or improve the structure. Now improvement of the model can be done by potential energy. Now obviously the conformation with lowest potential energy will be the most stable. So this lecture we will try to attain, or we try to understand how to get the best structure with lowest potential energy. Now there are several methods for calculation of lowest energy or lowest value of a function. One of the mostly used method is grid search method, where we calculate the potential energy at different values of the input parameters or the independent variables. So grid search method takes a lot of time because we have to systematically vary each and individual independent variable, give different values, assign different values to them, then calculate energies in all of these situations, and then calculate the best structure, possibly with lowest energy. But to improve the method, there are other modified grid search method such as simplex method or successive bisection method, Gauss-Newton method, and etc. Rosenberg method is another modified grid search method. These methods or these method developments are subjects of applied mathematics. We will not go into that detail, but we will try to restrict ourselves to the studies necessary for biophysics. So we want to obtain the best potential energy and not anything else. So to learn the processes necessary to understand the best structure with lowest energy minimum, lowest energy, that is our motto. Now, in a typical biomolecule such as protein, we have seen there are mainly two variables, phi and psi. So in such a extended, elongated protein structure with different side chains, we can vary the phi and psi torsion angles, assign different values of these phi and psi torsion angles. Not only these phi and psi, but we have to assign different values to these phi and psi, these phi and psi, these phi and psi, and so on. And in each case, we have to calculate potential energy and then obtain the lowest energy. Now you can assume, you can understand that in such a small peptide also, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 variables. So effectively, we have to, if we consider only 3 possible conformations, 3 possible best conformations at the values of phi and psi to be 180 plus 60 or minus 60, in that case also we have some 3 to the power 15 conformations. In these 3 to the power 15 conformations, we however neglected the possible variations in the side chain torsion angle, such as chi1 in these cases, chi1 in this case we may have to vary the torsion angle chi2 also, and so on. So our complexity increases in case of a realistic protein with about 200 residues. In that case, we have to consider calculation of potential energy for something like 4 to the power 300, considering the side chain torsion angles. That is practically impossible. But there also we have other difficulties. I will come to those slowly. Another example where we need to find out the optimal structure with best or lowest possible energy is interaction between a receptor and a drug. So for example, this is a DNA. We expect this drug molecule bind to in the minor groove. So we may have to vary the relative orientation between this molecule and this molecule in different ways. So we may have to bring this molecule closer and closer. We may have to bring down this molecule down and down, or in 3 dimension we have to push this back and forth. We also have to rotate these molecules by different degrees, so that finally we obtain a position where this drug molecule is snugly fit into the minor groove. Another simple example if we take is binding of a ion near a DNA. Now we know that DNA is negatively charged polyion all these phosphate groups carry one negative charge each, and so in a long DNA molecule there are huge number of sodium ions or potassium ions or magnesium ions surrounding this DNA. Now if we want to find out the best position of a sodium ion, we have to place the ion first at this point, then bring it closer, bring it further closer, bring it further closer, and so on. And maybe in that way we will bring it here to find out the best position. But this may not be the best position. Maybe we have to bring it on the other side of the DNA. So instead of major group, maybe it will prefer the minor group. Maybe instead of preferring this position, it will prefer this position because of the sequence. So we have to vary all these delta x, delta y, delta z, etc. to different values and calculate energy for each of these conformations, each of these orientations of the ion with respect to the DNA, giving rise to huge possibilities and huge calculations. Now, second thing is, we have assumed, say, 1 angstrom distance between the two grid points where we are placing the ions. Maybe 0.5 angstrom spacing, grid size may be giving better result. For example, maybe instead of the ion placing here or here, if we place the ion in between these two, we may have even lower energy. But in this grid search method, we are avoiding that. We do not know whether there is any lowest energy in between two grid points. So the limitation of grid search is there, that we cannot make the grids smaller and smaller. And then the next question is that we are here varying the position of the grid, or position of the ion, or the position of the drug with respect to the DNA, or the torsion angles phi and psi. But we have already seen that bond angle NC alpha C prime, that also is a variable in a protein case, or the side chains can adjust slightly, or in the DNA case, the minor group may squeeze slightly to give better snug fit of the drug. So all these things has to be done. So that means degrees of freedom in these cases are not restricted to 3 or 6 or a limited number of 200 or 300. The degrees of freedom are much more. Many more things, many more independent variables can change to give rise to better and better potential energy. Now, this I told that this phi psi, in addition to the phi and psi torsion angles, we have to vary torsion angles. So this was to obtain the bridging region as a favorable conformation in Ramachandran plot. So where we had to vary the bond angle from 109.5 to 110 or 105 degree, so that this region becomes a partially allowed region. Now this thing is also very possible in case of these small molecules. So we can model a small molecule like alcohol, tertiary butyl alcohol. So here we can model the structure considering all ideal situations, like carbon-carbon distance as 1.54, the carbon-carbon angle as 109.5 degree, the carbon-hydrogen distance to be 1.07 angstrom, hydrogen-oxygen distance to be 0.96 angstrom, and so on. But if we optimize this structure using the best and most popularly used density functional theory, B3-leaf 631G ***, we see that the distances and the angles change a lot. So this distance, initially model structure, it was 1.54 angstrom, but now it became 1.52 angstrom. Same thing is true for the bond angle. This bond angle was initially 109.5 degree. It became 112.55 degree. So all these changes take place. So that means not only a relative orientation between two molecules can change, the internal degrees of freedom or the internal coordinates of the molecules, they can also change on optimization. Now, how do we do the optimization? Now, a simple energy function or simple function can be optimized or to get minimum or maximum value of the function by a simple high school algebra. For example, if I have the function y equal to x square minus 3x plus 1, we can differentiate this function with respect to x and set the value differential coefficient to 0. So that means if I differentiate this equation with respect to x, it becomes 2x minus 3 equal to 0. And this is 0 at both maximum and minimum of this function. Now this gives us the value of x equal to 3 by 2. You can, on a back of the envelope, you can calculate whether this leads to maximum or minimum of the function. But this is an optimal solution of this equation. So this equation will have a minimum or maximum at x equal to 3 by 2. Now similarly, if we consider van der Waals interaction, which is varying as r to the power minus 6 and r to the power minus 12, we can differentiate with respect to r and set it to 0. And that means that at that position, the energy, van der Waals energy, will be minimum. And this gives us the value of r0. That means where the minimum energy is, van der Waals energy is minimum, and so that is an optimal solution. Effectively, this cannot give a maximum, so you can also calculate that at r0 the energy is not maximum. How do we calculate the energy is maximum or minimum? That is, if we differentiate it twice, then at the minimum your second derivative will be positive, and in your maximum the second derivative will be negative, and that way you can find out the maximum or minimum. So if I have this as my total potential energy function, we can differentiate energy of potential with respect to xyz coordinates. For example, this b0 is a constant, kb is a constant, this is k2, k theta is a constant, theta 0 is a constant, but b can be calculated from the xyz coordinates of the atoms involved. Theta can be calculated from the xyz coordinates of 3 atoms involved. Similarly, the torsion angle also can be calculated, the phi value, from the xyz coordinates of the 4 atoms. Now, how do we calculate those? If we have energy or potential as a function of half kb into b minus b0 whole square, so the b0 is square root of x0 minus xh1, xo is this one, h1 is this one, plus yo and yh1, zo and zoh1 whole square, b0 is a constant. Now we can differentiate this equation v with respect to xh1, yh1, zh1. So if we differentiate with respect, or we can differentiate with respect to xo, yo and zo also. So if we differentiate with respect to xo, then our value becomes like this. Similarly, we can differentiate with respect to yo, zo. We can differentiate with respect to xh1, yh1, etc. We can differentiate with respect to xho, yho for obtaining the potential energy variation with respect to this bond length. So similar terms for these, all these can be calculated similarly. So if we have those derivatives, then we can say that energy minimum will appear when d dx equal to 0. So if we convert this multidimensional or 9-dimensional situation. So we'll have 3 values xo, yo, zo. We have 3 values for xh1, yh1, zh1, and 3 values of xh2, yh2, zh2 for a water molecule. So we can differentiate with respect to all these. Now let us consider a single variable. So in that case also, my potential energy may vary in this fashion. So at this minimum or at this maximum, my dE dx will be 0. But what about these other points in P2, P3, P5 and so on? So in those cases, we have to evaluate what is the value. Now, how do we evaluate? This is a complicated function. This is a odd-looking function. So, if we have a simple-looking function as van der Waals energy or the function I described earlier, this function, this is simple. But in this situation, when we have a odd-looking function, the function is dependent on many things, we can expand the function using Taylor series. Now, Taylor series is again a part of mathematics where we can predict the value of a function at a position h away from its fx. So, now assume fx is known and the first derivative of fx is known, second derivative of fx is known, third derivative of fx is known, and so on. In that case, we can predict what will be the value of fx. Now we can use this actually for an example. Let us consider we want to find out what is the value of sin x at x equal to say 3 degree. So we know that sin 0 is 0 for x equal to 0. We also know that cos x, which is obtained from first derivative of sin x, that is 1 at x equal to 0. We know that second derivative of dy sin x, that is first derivative of cos x, which is 0, which is sin x, and so on. So if we add all those things, we can predict the value of sin x or sin 3 degree or sin 73 degree or whatever using this Taylor expansion. Now we know that if the value of x is very small, we can approximate it to be within the first 2 terms. If the value of x is quite large, we have to consider several other terms. Why do we consider the first term only or first 2 terms only for small values? Because for small values, the x to the power 3, x to the power 5, x to the power 7, x to the power 9, etc., they will be very, very, very small and negligible. And mind it, we are dividing again by the large number. So x to the power 7 becomes very small. 7 factorial is also even larger. So dividing a small number by a large number gives rise to a very small change for this. So if we have small value of x, we can truncate it here. If we have slightly larger value of x, we can truncate it here. If we have even larger value of x, we can truncate it here. Or for very large value, we may have to consider few more terms. So this is the beauty of Taylor series, that if we know the function and its derivatives at any given point, then we can predict the value of that function at any point, at a small distance away, and even at a large distance away also. Now we can apply this method in our calculation of minimum energy potential. Now we know that at minimum energy potential, our first derivative of energy will be 0. Now we know the position where we are. We have a model. This model has a coordinate x, and this is not the minimum energy point. So our dE dx is not really 0. But we can expect or we can assume that at h away from this model structure x, my minimum energy, my energy is minimum. So that means dE dx at x plus h is actually 0. So here is the minimum, but we don't know h, we know x. So we can since my function is a well-behaved function, we can differentiate with respect to x. We can differentiate d dx also, second derivative also we can find out. We can also find out probably third derivative also. But we can again assume that my minimum is not far from the present position. That means we can assume that h is small. If h is small, we know that h square is even smaller, h cube is even smaller, very small, h to the power 4, 5, etc. are negligible. So in that case, if we truncate it here, approximately truncate it here, in that case what we will have is 0 is equal to d dx plus d2e dx2, or we can estimate the value of h, how far the minimum is from my present position, from this expression. Now, possibly my approximation that h is very small is not true. In that case also, we expect that we get a better estimate of x. So what we can do is we add my next approximate position as x plus h. So we repeat this procedure once more. From x equal to x plus h, we determine another value of h prime from this equation, because if we know x plus h, we can again find out differential of d dx and d2e dx2 at that x plus h, and then go on to improve my values of h so more and more. And at one moment we will find that h becomes almost negligible. H becomes very small. So at that time we can say that we have converged to find the minimum. So effectively what will happen is a position where my d dx can be positive or negative. Why positive or negative? If my initial position was here at P3, my dA dx is negative. So this is my gradient which is negative because my angle is larger than 90. So in this case, my next position h will have something like this value. So I will move towards the minimum energy. At that point again my d dx will be negative. I will move again more towards the minimum energy, and so on. If on the other hand my initial model was having at P4 my d dx was positive, small angle smaller than 90 degree. So I will have a value of h which may lead to here. At this point again I will calculate the d dx and second derivative. I will come closer to the minimum and so on. Effectively after few steps I will be able to track this position where my energy is really minimum. Now for a realistic system, this was shown in case of single variable. But in a protein or a nucleic acid or a biomolecule, we have several variables. We have n number of atoms. So this n is something like 30,000, 50,000 to 50,000 if we consider the water molecules also. In that case, I will have 3 into 50,000 variables, and I will have a matrix like this as second derivative term, and a vector like this as the first derivative term. So I have all these differential coefficient of energy with respect to x1, y1, z1 of the first atom, x2, y2, z2 of the second atom, x3, y3, z3 of the third atom, and so on up to xn, yn, zn of the last nth atom. Similarly, I will have a second derivative matrix, and this matrix is called Hessian matrix, this d dx, d2e dx2, and this matrix division is not meaningful. We effectively would have to inverse this second derivative matrix. Now inverse of a second derivative matrix of such huge dimension like 150,000 into 150,000 is a huge task by a supercomputer. So we cannot really attempt that. So this inverse calculation becomes very, very difficult by a supercomputer, so we cannot attempt that. So the other options, the approximate options, is that we can consider out of these second derivative matrix the diagonal elements to be very significant, because anyway first derivative of energy with respect to x1, when we differentiate with respect to y1, this may not be very important. So we can consider these are small numbers, and these rate of change of first derivative because of some other atom can be considered as 0. So we can approximate this full matrix into a smaller matrix and try to evaluate the inverse of those matrix, and thereby we can call a modified Newton-Raphson method, that is the truncated Newton-Raphson method or adapted basis Newton-Raphson method, and etc. So in all these cases, the approximation of the Hessian matrix is made nearly to the unit matrix. The other way is if we consider the Hessian matrix to be really an unit matrix. That means it has only the diagonal elements. In that case, making inverse of the diagonal element becomes very simple. So that becomes equivalent to a constant term lambda. So this gives us another approximate method or another method for minimization of a potential energy function, which is called steepest descent method. So here we can iteratively recalculate H again and again by the appropriate first derivative of the matrix, and then calculate the next and next steps. But this works fine if I have my initial geometry at this point. I have a large value of the first derivative. I drop to this point immediately, then I drop to this point immediately, and so on. But when we come to close to the minimum, obviously my close to the minimum, the potential energy curve will be very flat kind of. And so in those cases, my first derivatives will be very close to 0, and so my H values will be very small and small. So as we move close to the energy minimum, my H values become smaller and smaller. So although we do lot of steps to improve my geometry from a model structure to the energy minimum conformation, we really do not reach the energy minimum value. We just spend more and more time. So many steps also do not lead to the exact location of the potential energy minimum. So in that case, what we can do is we can make use of the history. For example, if we see that at this point we have a value of H which is positive. At the next point also we have a value of H which is positive. So this indicates that we are moving towards the correct direction. So now in this step, instead of taking the H equal to just dE dx into lambda, if we can make use of the history, that earlier step also I had moved in this direction, and this present step also we have moved in this direction. So if we can increase the step size, if we are moving in the same direction, so in that case our step size near the minimum will increase. If we by chance cross the minimum and go to this side, then what will happen, that at this point my dE dx was positive, and at this side my dE dx will have negative value. So immediately I understand that I have crossed the barrier. So then I again reduce the step size. So this is done by a method called conjugate gradient. So where the grids, the directions of search in the present and the previous ones are compared. So and then from their dot product or inner product, we can actually modify the H direction. That means the step size. So instead of taking just that point, whatever is the dE dx, if we use the previous steps dE dx, here we are talking about a single variable situation, but in actual case we have multiple variables, so we have to consider so these g values are the vectors as shown in the previous slide, as these are the dx vectors. So we can improve the speed of the minimization, so but there are some other problems also. For example, we know that at this position where my energy is really maximum, my second derivative is negative. At energy is minimum, my second derivative is positive. Now, how it is negative or positive, the second derivative value, it depends that if my curvature encompasses the origin in this side, in that case my second derivative becomes negative. So whatever is the nature of the curvature at this point, the nature of the curvature at this point is also same. That means in both the cases the curvature is actually encompassing the origin. In this case, you see the curvature is encompassing in this side, which is away from origin. So at this point my second derivative will be positive, but at this side my second derivative will be negative. Now at this side, at this point, my first derivative is also negative. So this is negative, this is also negative, so h will be negative. And if h is negative, then that means that at this point what I will get is the push to away from the energy minimum point. So in this point, if we try to use the Newton-Raphson's method, I will go away from the actual energy minimum point. If we start from my energy minimization from this energy maximum point, so at this point also I will have the same problem. I will have additional problem that my numerator is also 0, so this will not lead to anything else. But at this point my numerator will have a non-zero value, that is d dx is not 0 but it is negative, but d2e dx2 is also negative, which will give my push my h value so that I start looking in other directions. So use of Newton-Raphson at all the time is not a good practice. So the recommended good practice is that you do a steepest descent calculation minimization method in the beginning, so that you can move away from the energy maxima. Although it is slow, but it will lead towards actually the minimum, obviously, in all situations. Steepest descent method is recommended after a given interval also, and in between these two you use some better minimizer such as conjugate gradient or truncated Newton-Raphson or adapted basis Newton-Raphson and so on. Conjugate gradient is one method which demands less amount of computational power, both in terms of time and memory, and in between few steepest descent, in between few conjugate gradient or adapted Newton method, you can also use some steepest descent. So after every 1000 steps you can calculate, you can do some steepest descent steps so that you get rid of the local maxima. And in every case, it is better that one does a grid search algorithm first to find the initial position, some guess structures which is close to the minimum. And several starting points from the grid search can be used for further minimization. So in this lecture, you have learned different techniques of geometry optimization. So we can start from a very bad geometry, a poor geometry. We can then obtain different conformations, model different conformations or different geometries of the systems, and then calculate each of their energy and then find out the lowest energy from these. Now these different conformations can be obtained by slowly changing some of the parameters which we think important parameters such as distance between two molecules, a drug and the protein, or some torsion angles, phi or psi torsion angle, important phi and psi torsion angle, then obtain these different conformations and then find out energies of these conformations in a grid search method, then take the lowest energy conformation and then apply the gradient based method such as steepest descent method. Then this steepest descent method is very fast initially for obtaining a bad structure to better structure, but from better structure to best structure, steepest descent is not very appropriate, or it becomes very slow to obtain the best structure from a in-between structure. So in those cases, we have to go to conjugate gradient method, or if the resources permits, we will like to go to Newton-Raphson method or adapted basis Newton-Raphson method, and so on. And these methods are going to take us to the local minimum. But these local minima is supposed to be the conformation at absolute 0 Kelvin temperature, and so how to obtain the conformation suitable at physiological condition will be the topics of our discussion in the next lectures. Thank you very much.